So I've been engaging with colleagues across faith traditions this church year, from our Thanksgiving service held at Southminster Presbyterian to our upcoming Interfaith Immigration Forum right here at Saltwater on the 15th with Rabbi Jim of Bet Havarim, Reverend Amy of Normandy Park, UCC, and Reverend Aaron of Southminster. I've also been working with an online cohort of clergy from around the country, deepening our pastoral care skills. In that group, I'm the only non-Christian. And there, as in most clergy spaces that aren't explicitly UU, my colleagues can largely assume a set of beliefs that they share with their congregations, that they can draw on and encourage people to trust in difficult times. We don't have that in the same way as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I don't expect you to have a belief in any particular deity or any deity at all. I don't expect us all to read the same sacred texts. I won't give you easy answers and ask you to trust me. Instead, I will share what is meaningful for me and ask you to try it on. And then I will ask you about what is meaningful for you and encourage you to follow and explore where that meaning leads. Instead of saying, trust me, I say, join me in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Let us embrace together our UU heritage of freedom and reason. Or, as the Wiccan Reed says, and you harm none, do what you will. So I've said that I don't expect you to place your trust in a particular theology, and I don't ask you to trust me that I have all the answers, and I think that can be scary sometimes. I think some people look at Unitarian Universalism and ask, what is there here for me to place my faith in? How do I trust in Unitarian Universalism? I'll admit, there are moments when someone comes to me with a heart that is broken, a beautiful heart that the world will not stop breaking. And if my own heart is bruised on that day, sometimes even I wonder, what do I have to offer you to trust in? But when I am grounded and connected with Source, when I remember to feel myself resting in the interdependent web, I know what I trust about Unitarian Universalism, and the covenant affirmed by member churches of our UU Association says it so well. Quote, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. End quote. As Unitarian Universalists, love has been with us since the beginning, when early Christian ancestors sought to build communities modeled on the loving example of Jesus' life and teachings. Love was at the center for early American Universalist Hosea Ballou, who read the Bible and found there a God too loving to condemn anyone to eternal damnation. Unitarian Universalism has been a faith explicitly grounded in love since two free-thinking denominations were able to come together as one in 1961 when they agreed, quote, to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man, end quote. And as we learned better, we loved better, we found ways to say what we meant more clearly. With revisions to the UUA bylaws in 1985, UUs claimed as sources of our free faith, quote, Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves, and words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love, end quote. In the 21st century, UUs became a visible presence for social justice in the U.S. public square under the yellow banners and T-shirts of Standing on the Side of Love. When a disabled minister shared that they felt excluded by that language of standing, our UU social justice arm changed their name to Side with Love, which is hosting monthly action and grounding webinars, and the next one is coming up on March 10th. You can join me there. So now we have this language, this image of love at the center. And you have probably one of these in the seat pocket in front of you or behind you if you're in the front row. So if you want to see what I'm talking about with love at the center, this is an image that beautifully sums it up. So we have this language and this image that were approved by the vote of our UU General Assembly last year, removing references to any specific religious tradition or deity from our statement of purpose, and instead focusing solidly on the love at the center and the values that grow from it. As Unitarian Universalists, we have always trusted love. Love as an idea, as the foundation on which we build love, the rich soil from which all our values grow. As we follow the path of love throughout our history, we witness our values in action, the transformation that has been necessary to live ever more fully into love, letting go of listing out every single source and instead proclaiming the broad, loving embrace of pluralism. We are generous because love demands that we share what we have. Our commitment to justice and equity find love insisting that we draw our circles wider to make space for those who have been excluded. And love is the fabric of the web of life that holds all in interdependence. All our values grow out of love. So when we trust in Unitarian Universalism, we get to rest in that love, like a seed rests in the soil, and we ourselves grow through the rich nourishment of that love. There is rest in love, and there is work. Love is not only an idea, it is an action. Our Unitarian Universalist Association says we are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Saltwater Church says that it is our mission to practice love. We do this by making it our practice to ask ourselves, which side is love on? And then taking that side. Just as we try to return our focus to our breath when our mind wanders in meditation, so do we always try to return our focus to love when we find ourselves in moments of activation, uncertainty, or even despair. This faith asks us to trust that love can lead the way. Love is a discipline because it isn't easy. In a culture that thrives on dehumanization, putting profits over people, centering love may be bad for the bottom line. It may take longer, and it may mean we have to find a whole new way of doing things because we've been so far off of love's mark for so very long. The spiritual discipline of love is aspirational, but one way that we try to make it concrete and doable as Unitarian Universalists is by making covenants, mutual promises about how we will be together in community. The language of our past principles and now our values statement comes from the covenant that all the member congregations of the UUA affirm. Our Saltwater Covenant of Right Relations is posted on the wall in the welcome room, but it is also on the backside of this flower of our values. Our covenant calls us to listen, especially to people who've been harmed or whose voices have been marginalized. It is the agreement that we as a community, before my time, voted on. to say, yes, this is how we will be together. It calls us to consider other perspectives, to make amends if we cause harm, and it shows us how to turn toward each other in times of conflict rather than away. Like the wise elder in our story this morning, our church's covenant hands those of us who embrace it the tools to repair trust when it has been broken. Returning to covenant is practicing love. I think us as individuals coming together as a practice of love, that makes sense, but it can get a little nebulous the bigger we get. What does it mean that our church covenants with other churches to be part of the UUA? Financial support is one of the responsibilities of membership, both for individuals who join Saltwater Church and for congregations who are part of the UUA. And I'm proud to say that our congregation pays our fair share to the UUA to fund the work of Side with Love, as well as our regional staff who help us navigate best practices and sticky situations. We also live into our covenant by participating in the life of our community through volunteer service, learning together, and spiritual practice. We do this as individuals in our congregation, and Saltwater Church lives into this piece of our covenant with the UUA by participating in the life of our association through our annual General Assembly, where representatives from member congregations come together to vote on the business of the denomination, where we make the decisions that guide our faith into the future. So today, I want to thank our 2025 General Assembly delegates, Christina Frua, Jim Lovell-Ford, and Rachel English, who the board has approved to serve as the representatives of this congregation to do the business, practice love by doing the work of our association. Jim, Christina, Rachel, thank you for practicing love by engaging with the democratic process that is a key piece of our justice commitment as Unitarian Universalists. At General Assembly this year, you'll be asked to consider where love is calling our faith to study and take action. We'll be voting to choose a multi-year denominational-wide justice focus on one or none of 3 different topics proposed by our fellow UUs: abolition as faith formation, building justice and inclusion for larger bodies, and housing, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I look forward to engaging in discernment with you around these and other issues that our General Assembly delegation will take up on behalf of this congregation. The trust that I place in our covenants is a trust in this practice of Unitarian Universalism, a practice of love that I believe is essential for facing the challenges of our time. Adrienne Marie Brown, author of Emergent Strategy, who you will often hear me quote, reminds us that small is all, and how we do anything is how we do everything. When we participate in democracy as part of the UUA and part of Saltwater Church, we make more democracy in a world that could sorely use it right now. When we share our money with organizations that share our values, we are part of making those values grow in our community and in our world. When we practice navigating being in community, using healthy communication skills as our covenant calls us to do, we grow our skills of being together with all our differences. These practices of Unitarian Universalism and of Saltwater Church with love at the center, they offer us something to trust in, to fall back on. By doing the work of making, falling out of, and returning to our covenants, by doing the work of being a generous, transforming, pluralistic, interdependent community grounded in love, we grow together through our mistakes and challenges, and we become something more beautiful as a result. I trust the love that is our center and our practice. I trust love, and I love you. Together, let's love the hell out of this world.